Good afternoon, folks. Coach Simmons here. I know this is late at night, but let's clear this little people for a little night court, if you will. We're gonna release something today. Girl, y'all talk for doing it all day on Twitter. This ain't Twitter, this is YouTube, and I'm a little bored. So what we're gonna do before I head to work, make some money for my family. I'm gonna drop about a 3-hour video, the longest video I ever dropped on this channel. I'm gonna show the entire deposition of Mr. Weber on the Urban Edge Network versus Swac. Every bit uncut. YouTube may block this. I may not get money from this video. Want to support the channel? It's Cash App. Blue Mino. You know the one. BLUMINAULT. But this right here, completely uncut. It's up for the people. Now, Mr. Weber, go ahead.
On record at 12:41 p.m.
Okay, Mr. Weber, I'd like to go back to, this is Exhibit 3?
Yes, Exhibit
3. And the second whereas. So it's your testimony right now that athletic associations had nothing to do with the associations identified as MEAC, Swac, so forth, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And it's your testimony that you never told Mr. Hardy that Swac football games would be part of this agreement, correct?
Absolutely not. That's why it's not in there.
Okay. Did you ever tell Mr. Brown that Swac football games?
Absolutely not. That's why it's not in there.
Well, why wouldn't they be part of this agreement?
Objection calls for speculation.
This agreement is based off the National Battle Bands, HBCU Pride Nation, HBCU Game Day, and Yard Talk 101. This is the agreement. That's what it's about. Period.
And it never involved the MEAC?
Never.
It never involved SWAC?
Never.
It never involved the other names?
MEAC. CIAA.
It never involved CIAA.
HBAC.
We don't. No, it's only involved what we have here in the agreement. In the agreement, we're only talking about National Battle Bands, HBCU Pride Nation, HBCU Game Day, and Yard Talk 101.
And you never talked about CIAA being part of this agreement?
No.
You never talked about SWAC being part of this agreement?
Nope.
You never talked about SIAC being part of this agreement?
Nope. We don't have the rights to do that.
You don't have the rights to do what?
Sell CIAA's media. We don't have their rights. We can't give you what we don't have the rights to.
And what about the SWAC?
We don't have the media rights for the SWAC.
What about SIAC?
We don't have the media rights for the SIAC.
What about for MEAC?
We don't have the media rights for MEAC.
What about HBCUAC?
I don't even know what that is, but we don't have the rights to do that. The only thing that we have the rights to was National Battle Bands, HBCU Game Day, HBCU Yard Talk, and HBCU Pride Nation, in which that's in this agreement.
And that was, and none of those athletic leagues were ever in your discussions?
Nope. Those have to be done with you guys and however you want to do them with those athletic associations.
You gave me how many agreements? 3? Mr. Porter? 4.
I gave you the three that are in the schedule, and then I gave you a copy of the agreement that he has with Swac.
Okay, I'm just looking for those right now. You gave them to me, I put them over here. Mr. Weber,
Yes, sir.
as you sit here today, do you believe that UEN breached the agreement with Weber Marketing?
Do I believe they breached our agreement?
Yes.
Yes.
When did you form this belief?
When we were providing B-roll and content footage, and they missed their first payment, and I was getting the idea that they didn't want to pay after that, and so we stopped downloading all the footage over to them.
What specific terms of the agreement do you believe they breached?
The payment terms?
And where would those be found?
In the agreement under section Schedule B.
Schedule B reads as follows. The license fees hereunder shall be payable to Weber as follows. In the first year, these were going to be paid to Weber, not to any other entity, correct?
That's correct.
In the first year of the initial period, Weber shall receive $375,000 payable on May 30th. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
That's correct.
$187,500 payable on October 1st, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And is that a yes?
Yes.
And $187,500 payable on December 31st, correct?
Yes.
It goes on to say, in each subsequent year of the initial period, the license fee, excuse me, the license fee shall be payable in 4 equal installments on the following below. April 1st, correct?
That's correct.
July 1st, correct?
That's correct.
October 31st, correct?
That's correct.
December 31st, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, the agreement was signed on May 7th, 2021, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And that was signed by you on that date, correct?
Yes.
And it was also signed by Todd Brown on that date, correct?
Objection calls for speculation, whether he knows or not.
Objection to which question?
Well, the exact date, Mr. The agreement says it was signed on that date. As to what date it was actually signed, I don't know. I don't know nothing. I withdraw the objection.
And it was signed by Todd Brown, correct?
Yes, that's what's stated here in the agreement.
And it's signed, dated May 7th, correct?
That's what's in here in the agreement, right?
So the initial payment was due at the end of May of that year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And was that amount paid?
No.
Did they give you a reason why it wasn't paid?
They said that they didn't know if I owned the National Battle of the Bands.
And what was your response?
I owned it just like I own Level Marketing.
Is that what you told them?
I'm not sure if I said that verbatim. I can't recall what I said verbatim.
Did you provide them any documents that show that you owned it?
At that point, I think my attorneys had jumped in with going back and forth with UEN attorneys. So I can't particularly recall.
Is that the only term that you believe was breached?
Other than payment?
Yes.
Yes.
Can we open that door, please?
Maybe a little loud.
Yeah, I'm sensitive to dust and shit.
You need to go off the record for a second?
No. Have you identified every term of the agreement that you believe was breached by UEN?
No, not every term.
Okay. Can you identify them now?
Just the breach of not paying for the services that we rendered.
And that's Exhibit B, correct?
That's correct. That's where the payment terms are.
Did you communicate, who did you communicate with at UEN that they had breached the agreement?
That was done through my attorneys.
Oh, let's break for lunch.
Off record at 12:53 p.m. On record at 1:41 p.m.
So whoever I'd like to hand you Exhibit 4 by notification. And then seek your apologies in advance. This will have me go back to Exhibit 3 with some questions. So there'll be a little bit of repetition. Do you recognize Exhibit 4?
Yes.
What is Exhibit 4?
Notice of material breach, demand for accounting and payment demand, and cease and desist.
And was this letter sent by your attorney?
Plumber Law Group. Yes.
And was it sent to Mr. Todd Brown?
Yes.
Have you seen this document before?
Yes.
In the third paragraph, it says, whoever in UEN entered into the agreement on May 7th, pursuant to which whoever was required to deliver audiovisual content featuring athletic events and related footage. Was your attorney referring to athletic events from the MEAC?
No.
Was she?
Go ahead.
Was she referring to any athletic leagues that are found at HBCU colleges?
No, we were talking about HBCU athletic events.
Okay. Would that represent football teams of any colleges?
HBCU athletics events from a cultural standpoint is step shows, Greek life, bands, B-roll footage and highlight reels of the game before and after, cheerleaders, dance girls, on the yard campus activities with Greek life. That's what that means.
So it's your testimony. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So it's your testimony that campus activities refer to athletic events, correct?
Like I mentioned earlier, HBCU events consist of campus events, cheerleaders, bands, Greek life, campus life, highlights of games and clippings. Yes.
Your answer said HBCU events refer to just a bunch of events.
Yes. It's a cultural thing.
I'm specifically referring to paragraph 3 from your attorney to Mr. Brown, where she refers to athletic events. Is it your testimony that athletic events refer to step shows?
Athletic events refers to Greek life on campus, bands, cheerleaders, campus life, B-roll clippings of whatever highlight games before and after, campus life. That's what I'm in reference to.
For the record, what are Greek shows?
You don't know what a Greek show is?
For the answer best you can.
Okay. All right. Are you part of a fraternity or a sorority?
I'm not.
Okay. So HBCU culture, Greek life is organizations that come together and do step and stroll routines that happen usually on campus or off campus.
What's a step or stroll routine?
May I, for example, interrupt for a second?
No.
I think he has to explain to you Greek life for the 4 black fraternities, so you're never going to understand what he's talking about. The record won't understand.
He will explain it to me.
Step and stroll is a routine that Greek fraternity and sorority organizations do as part of an HBCU event. So they're Greek organizations that express themselves with dancing steps and routines that they call step and stroll. Yeah.
And you refer to that as an athletic event?
That would be part of the HBCU culture that represents an athletic event, yes. It's a cultural thing.
You also said that an athletic event refers to campus life.
Like I mentioned, you're chopping it up a little bit, but like I mentioned, overall, an HBCU athletic event encompasses Greek life organizations, step groups, cheerleaders, bands, and campus life organizations and activities.
If you eliminate any of those, let's say bands, is it still an athletic event?
Yes, because you have to be very athletic to be able to step. I mean, you have to be in shape, to be honest with you. And there are big competitions throughout the country.
And how is campus life an athletic event?
Because campus life encompasses Greek organizations as well.
Okay. But your attorney says featuring athletic events and related footage from teams. Was she referring to teams from the MEAC?
Nope, they're step group teams. You have various Greek organization step group teams. You have cheerleading teams. You have dance teams. You have social on-campus organizational teams that compete with one another. So, yeah, that's what that consists of.
And that's what your attorney meant?
Yes.
And she got that from you?
I'm sure. I mean, where else would she get it from?
So, do any of these activities, Greek life, cheerleading, dance,
Bands.
step shows, if you eliminated, if you had these individually, do they all refer to athletic events?
Yeah, they're all tied into HBCU athletics.
No, my question is, do you need them as collectively as a group to be an athletic event, or can each of them individually be an athletic event?
I think it's the maximum way to demonstrate that culture is to do it from a collective standpoint. But it has been situations where, you know, you just got a cheerleading competition, or just a band competition, or Greek life competition. But when they're all collectively together, it amplifies the opportunity to express HBCU athletic events from a cultural standpoint.
All right, so I'm going to go back to exhibit number 3, the license and distribution agreement. So, when you sign this agreement and it says, whereas Weber produces HBCU athletic events, you did not mean Swac football events, correct?
That is in relation to exhibit, what is this? That is in relations to Schedule A. That's what that is in reference to. Schedule A, which is National Battle of the Bands events, Greek life events through HBCU Pride Nation, Yard Talk 101, and then HBCU Game Day.
And you never had a conversation with Mr. Hardy regarding MEAC being an athletic event?
I have nothing to do with the MEAC. I have no rights to the MEAC. I have no authority to represent the MEAC. The only authority that I have to represent is the intellectual properties that I own. That's outlined here in the contract and the agreement. And that's the only items that were relevant to what we had to do to fulfill our obligations.
And you never had a conversation with Mr. Hardy regarding representing the CIAA as part of this agreement?
I told Mr. Hardy that if he wanted to do deals, he had to do them directly with the conferences. Has nothing to do with us. What we have to deal with is this agreement with National Battle of the Bands, HBCU Pride Nation, in which that's why they're in this agreement. And the conferences are not, because we don't have the rights to those conferences.
And you never had a conversation with Mr. Hardy that athletic events meant Swac athletic events?
I never stated that athletic events represented Swac. If they did, then we would have put it in writing like we did everything else.
And you never put that in writing?
This agreement only pertains to HBCU Pride Nation, National Battle of the Bands, Yard Talk 101, and HBCU Game Day.
I'd like to just look at Exhibit 5 for identification. Counsel?
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Weber, Exhibit 5 is an email from you, Weber Marketing, to Hardy Pelt on February 28th, and it says as follows. As per our conversation last week, listed below you will find a potential offer for multiple HBCU properties under the Weber Marketing portfolio. Please review and let's circle back this week with questions.
Yep.
HBCU streaming deal, SWAC, all sports for 32 weeks per year. CIAA, SWAC, $1 million for all sports for 32 weeks per year. CIA, $500,000, all sports for 32 weeks per year. National Battle of the Bands, $350,000, and so forth. HBCU Game Day, $125,000, 32 weeks. HBCU Pride Nation, $65,000. Yard Talk, $75,000. Additional HBCU contents, HBCU Hall of Fame coaches tables. So right here, Mr. Weber, you state that for $1 million, Urban Edge Network would get all SWAC teams for 32 weeks.
Yes, this was prior to this conversation that we had with this agreement. I told Mr. Hardy Pelt that these deals had to be done directly with the conference offices.
It doesn't say that here. It says, per our conversation last week listed below, you will find a potential offer for multiple HBCU properties under the Weber marketing portfolio.
Yes. We didn't have the rights to do that.
That's not what it says in this letter. It says that you can provide those rights.
Yes, and we directly set up a conversation for Victor Pelt with the SWAC and with the CIAA for them to advance those conversations directly.
Now, Mr. Weber, I asked you at the beginning of this conversation, do you remember any conversations regarding the SWAC? And you said, no, I had no conversations.
No, I said I didn't.
Recall.
I said I didn't recall.
Oh, you recall now?
Of course, you just provided a document for me to recall.
You said you had no association with SWAC whatsoever. Does this email...
I didn't say I didn't have any association. I've always stated that we were the agency of record for the SWAC.
And how about CIAA?
We are not the agency of record for the CIAA.
Which is, you can charge $500,000 for all these sports teams.
I set up a direct conversation between Victor with the CIAA folks and Victor with the SWAC folks.
Which SWAC folks did you set up the meeting?
We did a conference call with the commissioner directly.
And who was on that call?
I can't recall who was on that call, but I did set it up.
Were you on the call?
Yes.
And what was said?
It was talked about a potential opportunity to where Urban Edge Network wanted to get some media rights for the SWAC. They were told that they could not do that because their media rights agreement was already with ESPN.
And who was on this call?
I just mentioned that I don't recall.
Okay. Well, there was someone from the SWAC that was on the call.
Yes, yes.
Who?
The commissioner was on the call.
Okay. Did you know at the time that SWAC could not provide any agreements with UEN regarding the sports?
Did I recall what?
Did you know when you sent this letter that the SWAC could not do a deal with UEN because they had a deal with ESPN?
No, I did not. That they could not do a deal with with Urban Edge Network.
And when did you find out?
When we did the call with the commissioner.
Okay, when you set up the call with the commissioner, did you tell the commissioner what the call was about?
Yes, I said we were exploring some media opportunities.
What does that mean, media opportunities?
Exploring media opportunities, that's exactly what it means.
Between who?
Between potentially Urban Edge Network and SWAC directly.
And what did the commissioner tell you when you told him that?
That he has to, the SWAC controls all their media rights directly, and that they already had a deal with ESPN.
So why'd you have the call?
To set up, this was to set up an opportunity to explore that with Victor and you and Urban Edge Network.
But the commissioner already told you that there was no opportunity.
It was a courteous, he did a courtesy call for me.
Okay. Did you tell Victor that in advance of the call?
I don't recall.
Did you do the same thing with the CIAA?
Yes, set up the call directly with Victor and the CIAA.
And who was that?
Julius Grant. and which, go ahead.
Is that a female or a male?
That's a male.
And what did Julius Grant tell you before the call?
Julius Grant told me that that they would explore it, but most likely they probably wouldn't enter into any agreement with them.
And did you tell Mr. Harley that before the call?
I do not recall that, no.
Okay. Isn't it true that you told both Mr. Hardy and Mr. Brown that the SWAC was going to be part of the license and distribution agreement?
No, I did not have the rights to do that.
Didn't you tell them that you were in conversations with the commissioner of the SWAC, but you couldn't disturb him because he was involved in the NCAA meetings that had him completely tied up at that time?
I don't recall that, no.
Do you know if the commissioner is involved in NCAA?
Do I know if he's involved with the NCAA? He just finished up being the chairman of the selection committee.
And you knew that back in 2023, correct?
Yes. He's been the chairman.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yes, he's been the chairman for 5 years before he
And
rolled
you knew
off.
that in 2021, correct?
Yes, he was on the committee then, yes.
And you specifically told Hardy that you couldn't give more detail with the commissioner regarding this agreement and to pull it out until you had a conversation with him, correct?
Say it again?
Aren't there drafts that show that the SWAC was originally part of this agreement?
Before, I don't know if it was drafts, but I do know that we set up a courtesy call with Victor and the commissioner, with Victor and the CIAA, for him to do individual deals directly with both of those conferences, which that we could not do directly. And so once those direct deals, conversations broke down, we entered into this agreement with us and our terms and items that we had the rights to.
So is it your testimony right now that there's not a draft where you put the SWAC as part of the agreement? Is that your testimony right now?
I don't recall.
What do you mean you don't recall? You either did or you didn't.
I don't recall.
Okay. Is it possible that the SWAC was originally part of this agreement in writing?
Originally, we tried to put a deal together with all of these items. We did a courtesy call with Victor and the SWAC. We did a courtesy call with Victor and the CIAA because we couldn't be involved with those deals directly. So we pulled ourselves out of this original terms and only did a term of agreement in which that you see fit.
So if you couldn't be involved in the deals directly, why is it part of the Weber marketing agreement?
Because originally we thought that we might be able to do it, but we were not able to do it.
Why did you think you might be able to do it?
Because we didn't know that the conference had a direct rights deal, CIAA and the SWAC, that prohibited this opportunity from happening.
Isn't the only reason that UEN was going to go into any agreement with Weber Marketing is because of this SWAC draft where it says that SWAC was going to be part of the agreement?
Like I mentioned earlier, we originally discussed SWAC and CIAA. We set up courtesy meetings between SWAC and CIAA. We found out after those meetings that we didn't have the rights to enter into an agreement because both of those conferences had media deals that would prohibit this from happening.
So why did you put it in the original draft if you didn't have the rights to do it?
Because I thought that we would be able to pull all these entities together to support the cause of getting this deal off the ground. And when I found out that we didn't and we couldn't, we pulled everything out of the agreement and only focused on the things that we could deliver on.
Well, so Weber, at the beginning of this deposition, you said that you never had any conversations regarding SWAC being part of this deal.
I said I didn't recall.
But you recall now?
Well, after you have provided the information to help me recall, yes, I provided you with the proper answers.
Should I show this here? No, let's do it later.
All right.
This will be the grand finale. Yeah. Did you have access to HBCU Hall of Fame Coaches Table Series?
That was a property that we were going to create.
Did you have license for Game Day Live?
That was an agreement that we put in place that we have already provided to you. And as the email stated, these were potential opportunities.
No. What the agreement says is that these are under the Weber marketing portfolio. Is that not
for a potential offer.
okay? The email says that.
Objection, the document speaks for itself.
That's right.
Go back and forth on the document. Let's move.
The document says, for multiple HBCU, as per our conversation last week, listed below, you will find a potential offer for multiple HBCU properties under the web marketing portfolio. My question to you is, was Swac under your portfolio, under web marketing portfolio?
For potential opportunity.
Was the CIA under the web marketing portfolio?
No, for potential opportunity.
Was the Hall of Fame Coaches Table series under the web marketing portfolio?
For potential opportunity.
When you say potential, did you own the rights to the Swac?
Potentially meaning that if we created something that we potentially could do it. That's what it means.
So your statement is you had no rights to the SWAC on February 28th, 2021, correct?
I never had media rights for the SWAC. Never.
And you never had rights for the CIAA, correct?
Never had. That's the reason I set up the meetings directly with Victor and the conferences.
And the $1 million for SWAC, was that going to go to web marketing or was that going to go to?
We don't do any, our deals, the media deals will have to be directly between the media company and the conferences.
The $500,000, was that going to go directly for CIAA?
The media deals will have to be done.
Was that going to go to web marketing or was that going to go to the CIAA?
The deals will have to be done directly with UNE and the conference.
But the CML doesn't say that, correct?
Yeah, it says potential.
To your knowledge, did UEN ever assert that Weber Marketing breached the agreement with UEN?
I think it's a document in regards to that, but I can't.
If so, who was the assertion made by?
Repeat the question again.
Who was the assertion made by that Weber Marketing breached the agreement with UEN?
I don't recall.
How was it made?
I guess it would have to be a legal document, I would assume.
And what do you understand the basis for this assertion?
That Urban Edge Network didn't like the footage that we was given to them.
And how did Weber Marketing respond to this assertion?
We stopped downloading the content.
To your knowledge, did UEN ever assert that Weber Marketing did not have the rights it licensed to UEN?
Yeah, I think they made that claim to our attorney.
When was this assertion made?
I'm not particularly sure.
By whom was it made?
Asked and answered.
What you say?
Asked and answered.
Oh.
Answer the question.
By one of the UNN's attorneys, I would assume.
How was it made?
How you typically make it? How do you typically make it? But via letter or email or some type of correspondence?
Well, was it oral? Was it by telephone? Was it by Zoom? Was it by email? Was it by overnight delivery? How was it made?
I don't recall.
How did Weber Marketing respond to this assertion?
We provided this document that you just provided to me.
And what document is that? Can you identify it by exhibit number?
Exhibit number 4.
Is there stamped on it?
Huh?
Is there a stamp on it?
Exhibit number 4.
To your knowledge, did UEN ever ask Weber Marketing if it had the rights it licensed to UEN?
Yes, that's the reason why we entered the agreement that we did. We only entered into the agreement of the items that we had the rights to.
Madam Court Reporter, can you please read back the last question?
To your understanding, did UEM ever ask Weber Marketing whether it had the rights to what it licensed to UEM?
Please answer the question.
Yes.
And did they ask if Weber Marketing had rights to National Battle of the Bands?
Yeah. Yes.
Did they ask if Weber Marketing had rights to HBCU game day streaming?
Yes.
Did they ask if HBCU Pride Nation streaming, if
Yes.
Weber Marketing had rights to that?
Yes.
Did they ask if Weber Marketing had rights to Yard Talk 101 streaming?
Yes.
At that time, which is June 16, 2021, did you provide proof that you had licensing rights to any of those organizations?
Objection misstates facts. Don't answer.
Answer the question.
The same date, are we looking at the same document?
Answer the question.
What was your question again?
On June 16, 2021, did Weber Marketing have the rights to HBCU game day streaming?
Yes, we did.
On that same date, did Weber Marketing have rights to HBCU Pride Nation streaming?
Yes, we did.
On that same date, did Weber Marketing have rights to Yard Talk 101 streaming?
Yes, we did.
And did you send UEN proof of that?
I don't recall. I have to follow up with my attorneys.
Which attorneys?
At the time, I think that was when Plummer was still engaged. Between Plummer and Joseph at that time. So I can't give you the exact answer on that.
So, what was communicated to UEN by your attorney?
I don't know what they said directly to each other, so I couldn't answer that.
Did they give you a copy of the letter?
Assumes the fact, not in evidence, that there was a letter.
What you say?
Objection assumes the fact, not in evidence, that there was a responsive letter from your attorneys to someone else regarding alleged breach notice given to you on or about June 15th, 2021.
Okay. So I don't recall.
Do you recall if it was a letter or a phone call that was communicated to UEN?
I'm assuming it was maybe some correspondent like this, like Exhibit at 4.
Did you ever receive a letter from UEN's attorney asking you to send proof that you own the rights to HBCU game day streaming?
I'm pretty sure I've answered that question already.
Vegas to the word you, his attorney, or to him personally?
Yeah.
Did you, Weber,
I'm pretty sure it went to our attorney first, but I don't recall.
when you say you're pretty sure, what went to
But
your
I don't recall.
What went to your attorney first?
What was the document that you was asking me about?
Yes.
Yeah, that document.
Let me rephrase the question. Did you receive a letter from UEN's attorney asking you to provide proof that you had the rights to HBCU game day streaming in June of 2021?
I don't know if it was June 2021. That's why I'm saying I don't recall. You have the document in front of you.
Did you ever receive a letter from UEN's attorney that asked you to provide proof?
I do remember.
Please give me the courtesy of finishing. That asked you to provide proof that you had the rights to HBCU game day streaming.
I do remember of that topic coming up and referred it to our attorneys.
So you never responded to
Our attorneys have responded to their questions.
Okay. So if there's a response, it would have come from your attorney, correct?
That would be correct.
And it would be from either Mr. Porter, correct?
Or the Plummer Law Group.
Did any of your attorneys ever tell you that counsel for UEN was seeking proof that you had the rights to HBCU game day streaming?
I do recall them mentioning that.
Okay. And did you provide your attorneys proof that you had the rights to game streams?
I provided our attorneys all of the agreements that we have that they have been supplied to you.
So in June of 2021, you supplied your attorney. Which attorney are you referring to?
I didn't say I did it in June 2022.
Excuse me?
I didn't say I did it in June 2022.
No, my question was June 2021.
I never said June 2021 is when I provided that information to them.
Okay. When did you provide the information?
I don't recall.
But you recall it wasn't June 2021?
I don't know when it was. That's the reason I said I didn't recall.
Okay. But you did provide to your attorney proof that Weber Marketing had rights to HBCU game day streaming, correct?
That's correct.
And if you provided that to your attorney, it's your assumption that they would have followed your directions and sent it to UEN, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
I provided the information to our attorneys for them to do their due diligence with the next steps of what they needed to do.
Okay. And if they didn't do it, would you consider that malpractice?
Objection calls for legal conclusion.
Like I said, I provided the information to our attorneys for them to do their due diligence with following up with what needed to be done.
Okay. Did you also give to your attorneys proof that you had the rights to HBCU Pride Nation streaming?
Yes, those are the three entities that we went in partnership with in order to fulfill these obligations for the contract at hand.
And when did you give your attorney proof that Weber Marketing had rights to HBCU Pride?
Well, the attorneys did the paperwork. So
Attorneys did what paperwork?
they did the agreement.
What agreement are you talking about?
The agreements that you're talking about, the agreements with HBCU Pride Nation, Yard Talk 101, and HBCU Game Day.
Which attorney did the agreement that gave Weber Marketing rights to HBCU Pride Nation streaming?
In regards to this particular project,
Yes.
the Plummer Law Group.
Okay. And it would be in their files that it was done prior to May 7th, 2021.
I think that's what the...
Objection as to whether it be in their files or not. He can't answer that. He doesn't know what's in their files.
Answer the
I
question.
don't recall. I don't know if it's in their files or not.
Okay. If they did do so, you can request a copy of those documents, correct?
I'm not in position to determine how they process their paperwork or not, so I couldn't answer that question.
Okay. My question is, it's your truthful testimony today that the Plummer Law Group drafted the agreement that gave Weber Marketing rights to HBCU Pride Nation streaming, correct?
Say it again.
It's your truthful testimony today that the Plummer Law Group gave provided or created the documents for Weber Marketing. Let me rephrase that. It's your truthful testimony today that your attorney from Plummer Law Group drafted the rights agreement between you and HBCU Pride Nation Stream, correct?
That's correct.
And this was done prior to May of 2021, correct?
That's correct.
And it's your testimony today that a lawyer at the Plummer Law Group created the agreement between you and Yard Talk 101 Streaming prior to May 2021, correct?
That's correct.
And it's your testimony today that a lawyer at the Plummer Law Group created a licensing agreement between Weber Marketing and HBCU Game Day Streaming prior to May of 2021, correct?
Yep, it was done 4/20, 2021. With Yard Talk, HBCU Game Day, and HBCU Pride Nation.
Was it all done on the same day?
Let me pull up the documents that we just sent you. No, one was done on 4/19. One was done on 4/20, like I mentioned earlier.
And this was done by the Plummer Law Group?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And that was done in 4/20/21?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Madam Court Reporter, is this exhibit number 6? Counsel? Counsel? Yeah, there was one at the front desk. Mr. Weber, you've seen this document before, correct?
Yes.
And this document is a letter from Robert Clayton, correct?
Yes.
To your attorney, Jessany Garrett, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And she's with the Plummer Law Group, correct?
That's correct.
And it's dated June 23rd, 2021, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a notice of termination of license and distribution agreement between Urban Edge Network and Weber Marketing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember this document being sent to you directly?
I don't remember, but I know it was sent to me, put it that way.
Was it sent to you by Mr. Clayton or by your counsel?
I don't recall how it was sent to me.
Do you recall who sent it to you?
I would assume it came from Clayton, but I don't know if it went from our attorney to me first, or if it went from me to them. I'm not particularly sure.
And this document says the following. Ms. Garrett, on June 15th, 2021, I sent an email correspondence to your client, Derek Weber, CEO of Weber Marketing and Consulting, LLC, requesting a copy of the documentation verifying that Weber has the licensing and distribution rights, trademark rights, and ownership of content rights to the following properties as set forth on Schedule A of the license and distribution agreement between the parties. Exhibit A consists of the National Battle of the Bands, HBCU Game Day, HBCU Pride Nation, and Yard Talk. Is that what it says?
Yes.
It goes on to say, as of this date, I have not received this requested documentation as set forth in my email correspondence to Weber, dated June 15th, 2021, Exhibit B. If your stated goal is to resolve amicably and promptly the contractual dispute between the parties, please forward the requested documentation to my attention by no later than close of business June 25th. Upon receipt, I would like to schedule a Zoom meeting between the parties to discuss settlement of the contractual dispute. Is that what it says?
Yes, that's what you're reading.
Okay. And did you ever send to Mr. Clayton, or have your attorney sent to Mr. Clayton, proof that you had the rights to National Battle Band's HBCU Game Day, HBCU Pride Nation, and Yard Talk?
Well, like I said, my attorneys had those agreements in hand, and whatever their due diligence were in response to this is the actions that they took.
Okay, did you give your attorneys the agreements to forward them to Mr. Hardy or to Urban Edge Network?
Like I said, my attorneys had the agreements in hand, had them in place. They had the authority to do their due diligence and proceeding how they thought was best, and that's where I left it.
What do you mean they had the authority to do the due diligence? What does that mean?
They had the authority to figure out the proper course of action to the next steps of following up in regards to this.
Wasn't the next normal course of action to provide proof of the licensing agreements with these organizations?
That's in a conversation you need to have with the attorney.
No, is that a conversation that you had with your attorney?
No, that's a conversation you need to have with the attorney.
Okay, my question is, did you have that conversation with your attorney
I'm objecting
to provide those documents?
It don't answer the question.
On what basis?
It's privileged communication between him and his client. He says the client had the attorney had the documents. The attorney was telling the attorneys between themselves, Mr. Clayton and Ms. Jessenia Garrett, were dealing with each other. If there's a reason she didn't send it to them, I don't know that he knows the reason, and that wasn't the question asked of him.
If your attorneys do not send these agreements to Weber Marketing, would you consider that malpractice on their part?
Objection calls for a legal conclusion. Look at the answer. I don't know.
No.
You wouldn't?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a no?
I said no.
I'd like you to look at Exhibit A to this letter.
That's Exhibit 6 or 7.
Exhibit A
No,
to...
no, I'm not trying to put...
Exhibit
well,
6. Exhibit A to Exhibit 6. Did Mr. Clayton attach the license and distribution agreement?
Yes, that's the information that you provided in Exhibit 6.
I'd like you to look at Exhibit B for identification.
Which is it?
Exhibit B to Exhibit 6.
Not schedule, exhibit.
Mr. Weber, Exhibit B to Exhibit 6 is an email from Mr. Clayton, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Dated June 15, 2021, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Sent directly to you at DerekWeberMarketing.net, correct?
Yes.
And is that your email?
Derek at WeberMarketing.net. Yes.
Okay. And it says, and the subject is Urban Edge Network License and Distribution Agreement, correct?
Yes.
It goes on to say, hi Derek, for my files, I would like a copy of the documentation verifying that Weber Marketing and Consulting LLC has the licensing and distribution rights, trademark rights, and ownership of content rights to the following properties as set forth in Schedule A: National Battle of the Bands, HBCU Game Day, HBCU Pride Nation, Yard Talk 101. Is that what it says?
Yes.
And did you respond to Mr. Clayton on or about Tuesday, June 15, 2021?
I referred this, I should have referred this correspondent over to my attorney. Because at that time, I don't think I was having any discussions directly with them without my attorney present.
So it's your testimony that you forwarded this email to your attorney?
I think so.
Okay. And did you forward also to your attorney proof that you held the rights to National Battle of the Bands, HBCU Game Day, HBCU Pride Nation, Yard Talk 101?
Objection asked and answered. It misstates evidence already in the record where he said that they had copies of those agreements prior to the time he received any notice.
Answer the question.
Like I mentioned earlier, our attorneys already had this information in hand for their records.
Okay, when you say that your attorneys already had this information in hand, are you referring to the Plummer Group?
The Plummer Group had all of our agreements in-house because they were responsible for putting the documents together.
Okay, and they put them together before June 15th, 2021, correct?
Like I mentioned earlier, these agreements were signed off with the dates that I provided you like 5 minutes ago with the questions that you just had.
And that was before June 15th, 2021, correct?
That's correct.
Thanks. Mark this as Exhibit 7 for identification, please. Counsel, this is Exhibit 7. Counsel, this is Exhibit 7. Mr. Weber, Exhibit 7 is a letter from Mr. Clayton, correct?
That's correct.
Dated June 23rd, correct?
That's correct.
And it's sent to you, correct?
That's correct.
And the reference of the letter is Notice of Termination of License and Distribution Agreement between Urban Edge Networks and Weber Marketing Consultant dated May 7, 2021, correct?
That's correct.
And it says, Mr. Weber, this letter dated June 23rd, 2021 is a formal codification of the email correspondence dated June 16, 2021, Exhibit A, and reaffirmation of the Notice of Termination. Is that what it says?
That's what it says.
It goes on to say this serves as notice of termination of the license and distribution agreement entered in between Urban Edge Networks and Weber Marketing and Consulting that is dated on May 7, 2021. I have attached a fully executed copy of the agreement as Exhibit B. Does it say that?
Yes, sir.
It goes on to say termination is warranted and justified based on your failure to produce upon request of UEN a copy of all documentation that provides legal verification in effect on May 7, 2021 that Weber LLC has the licensing and distribution rights, trademark rights, and ownership of content rights to the following properties as set forth in Schedule A: National Battle of the Bands, HBCU Game Day, HBCU Pride Nation, Yard Talk 101. Is that what it says?
Yes.
It goes on to say this agreement is null and void on its face. Does it say that?
Yes.
Okay, what was your response when you received this letter?
I forwarded over to my attorneys.
Okay. When you received this letter, did you tell your attorneys just send them the damn licensing rights so that I could get paid?
I don't recall what I said to them.
Okay.
to be honest with you.
Well, when you received this letter, that all they were seeking were the rights to the 4 agreements here. Did you ask them why they didn't send them over previously?
I don't even recall having that conversation.
You never had that conversation with your counsel?
I don't recall.
Okay. But you do recall seeing this letter, correct?
Yeah.
What did you do to prevent from being in violation of the agreement when you received this letter?
Objective form, you haven't established there was a requirement in the agreement
Join
to
an objection.
provide this information.
First of all, if you're going to make an objection, please do it one at a time. Don't speak over other counsel, number one. Number two, if that's your objection, let's go to paragraph 11 of exhibit number 3. You have exhibit number 3 in front of you? For counsel who's objecting from the chief seats, paragraph 11 says termination. In the event of a party's material breach of this agreement, the non-breaching party may terminate this agreement upon 30 days written notice specifying such a breach, provided such a breach, if capable of being cured, is not cured by the end of such 30-day period. You were aware of this paragraph, weren't you, in the agreement?
I'm going to impose an objection. The same thing. There's no requirement in the contract that they provide any underlying agreements. So it's not a breach of contract at that time.
Answer the question.
Like my counsel said, there wasn't a breach of contract at that time.
Why wasn't it?
Because it was already in the agreement to protect myself or Weber Marketing.
It was already. Your answer is it was already in the agreement to protect myself and Weber Marketing. What does that mean?
We didn't have to. Part of the agreement, we didn't have to show proof.
You didn't have to show proof that you had the rights to HBCU Game Day streaming, HBCU Pride Nation streaming, Yard Talk 101 streaming? Is that your testimony?
Is it in the agreement where it says that?
My question is that your testimony?
Objection, the document speaks for itself.
And second objection in order, argumentative.
Answer the question.
The rights are in the agreement that protects us from having to show that.
Show me where it says that, where it protects you from having to show that.
I'm not particularly sure. I'll have to go back through it and identify where it is.
Well, the agreement's in front of you. Let's take a break so the witness has time to go through these documents.
I would just have an objection. If you have a question related to a breach, then you point it out. It's your job to point it out. It's not his job to know everything that's in this contract.
Madam Court Reporter, we're going to take a 5-minute break to let the witness review the contract.
Off record at 2:37 p.m. On record at 2:50 p.m.
Madam Court Reporter, can you please read back the last 3 questions and answers?
So the last 3 questions and answers.
Yes, please.
Answer the question. Answer the rights and the agreement that protects us from having to show that question. Show me where it says that, or protects you from having to show that. Answer, I'm not particularly sure. I have to go back and identify where it is. Question, the agreement is in front of you. So let's take a break.
Mr. Weber, have you had a chance to review the agreement?
Yes.
And have you found where it says that you do not have to provide proof that you own the licensing rights to the following entities: HBCU Game Day streaming, HBCU Pride Nation streaming, and Yard Talk 101 streaming?
I reviewed the document and didn't see where we had to provide that to you, unless you can identify that.
So is it your testimony that you did not have to show proof that you owned the rights to these three entities. Is that your testimony?
Like I mentioned earlier, I reviewed the agreement. I didn't see where it said that in there, and can you identify that?
My question is it your testimony that you did not have to show proof? Please give me the courtesy of finishing. Is it your testimony that you did not have to show proof that you owned the rights to HBCU Game Day, HBCU Pride Nation streaming, and Yard Talk 101 streaming?
Objection asked and answered.
Yeah, you're asking me a legal question that I don't know because I'm not a lawyer.
When you received the letter, when you received the June 21st, 2021 letter from Mr. Clayton asking for proof that you owned the rights to National Battle of the Bands, HBCU Game Day, HBCU Pride Nation, and Yard Talk, what was your reaction?
Like I mentioned earlier, I forwarded that information over to our attorney because they were the lead in conversations directly with you and the attorney.
Okay. So did you understand that if you showed proof that you own the rights to these four organizations, that you would then get paid? Did you understand that?
No one ever said that. And at this point, when this was being issued, no one ever said that.
No one ever said what?
The question, the statement that you just made. Not to my knowledge.
If someone had said, if anyone from UEN had said, show me proof that you own the rights to these, to HBCU Game Day, HBCU Pride Nation, Yard Talk 101 streaming, if you could show me proof that you own the rights to those and will pay you, would you have given them the rights, shown them the rights that you had?
Objection, inappropriate hypothetical, and calls for legal conclusion.
Would you have given them
That's assuming. I can't assume to give you that answer.
Okay. But my question is, had you known that would have cured the breach, we had just given them the rights
Objection.
that you had?
Objective form.
Exactly. Assumes the fact, not in evidence.
Answer the question.
At that point, we were in legal back and forth with our attorneys and you guys. So if you and E wanted to take that approach, they should have put it in writing to us.
Okay.
Saying that they would pay us what they owe us. Yeah.
So if that had been said, then you would have provided proof, correct?
Objective form.
Yes. Yeah.
Answer the question.
You're assuming that. I can't answer that question.
I'm assuming what?
You're assuming that if, from a hypothetical standpoint, if they would have did what they were supposed to do, that this wouldn't have led to where it has led to now. So that's an assumption. I can't answer an assuming question.
Okay.
It's hypothetical.
Well, let me ask you another question.
Mm-hmm.
If they had just asked you for proof that you own the rights to these organizations, would you have provided it?
Like I said, I provided information over to our attorneys that had all of this agreements in place, and they were lead with those conversations from there. At this point, we were not having direct conversations anymore.
At what point?
In reference to what you just asked.
Are you talking about on June 23rd, 2021?
Around there.
How about on June 16th, 2021, when Mr. Clayton wrote to you, Mr. Weber, this serves as notice of termination of the license and this distribution agreement entered into between Urban Edge Networks and Weber Marketing Consulting. That is signed and dated on May 8th, 2021. I have attached a full executed copy agreement. Termination is warranted and justified based upon your failure to produce, upon request of UEN, a copy of all documentation that provides legal verification in effect on May 8th, 2021, that Weber LLC has the licensing and distribution rights, trademark rights, and ownership of content rights to the following properties as set forth in Schedule A: National Battle of the Bands, HBCU Game Day, HBCU Pride Nation, Yard Talk. That wasn't enough for you to turn over the rights of the agreement?
Object to form. You've asked and answered this 3 times, asking the same question. He's already said he doesn't have an obligation to. What are we doing?
Answer the question.
Like I mentioned earlier, at that point I had turned the information over to our attorneys, and they were directly with conversations between UNN attorneys and us.
When you say at that time, you're talking about June 16th, 2021?
Is that the document where you're reading off of?
I'm reading off of an email. I'm asking you, when did you turn this information over to your attorneys?
Anytime that I got something in from UNE attorneys, I forwarded it over to our attorneys.
And did you tell your attorneys to provide the information requested?
I'm not.
Objection.
Asked and answered.
Attorney, plus it's privileged communications.
Answer the question.
You don't have to.
No.
First of all, you are not his attorney. You cannot tell him.
I didn't tell him not to answer the question.
I
Okay.
told him
Mr.
not
Roy,
to.
I didn't tell him not to answer the question.
So please learn your objections and please understand who your client is. Mr. Weber is not your client. Now, Mr. Porter, do you have an objection?
Same objection that I made already.
And what objection is that?
It's privileged information as to what conversations he had with his attorney. And 2, it's been asked and answered. And 3, where do you get the June 16th date from?
Can you please mark this, please?
What is the June 16th correspondence you're referring to all the time? Is there no June 16th correspondence?
You've been given the document already.
It doesn't say June 16th on the one you gave to me.
I can help you if you can't find it. On June 16, 2021, did Weber Marketing have proof that it owned the rights to license anything from HBCU Game Day streaming?
Objection asked and answered.
I've answered that question already.
Answer the question.
Like I mentioned earlier, the agreements were drawn up by Plummer Group. The agreements were in place with the Plummer Law Group, and they had that information and were corresponding directly with UPE attorneys and the Plummer Law Group attorney group.
And which attorney at the Plummer Law Group? Because that person will be a witness in this case.
Like I mentioned earlier, it was Jesene Garrett that you wrote down on your little note, your pad right there.
What proof did Weber Marketing have that as stated in paragraph 3 of the agreement that, and I quote, hereby grants to UEN during the term and throughout the territory the sole and exclusive right and license to manufacture, reproduce, sell, rent, lease, license, sublicense, distribute, exhibit, broadcast, transmit. I'm sorry, am I going too fast? Okay, I'll slow down. Bundle with other programming and otherwise exploit the games, including pre-game and post-game material, live, same day, in all formats and versions, including without limitation any segments derived from the games, the content. On that day, what rights did Weber Marketing have to state that?
As I mentioned earlier, and I provided the dates to you, those agreements were in place, and our attorney had those agreements back in March, I think, March or April. And so that information and those agreements were in place and with our attorneys.
March of what year?
Let me go back and bring up the date, 2021. January, February, March, April.
In paragraph 3, it goes on to state, and my question is, what rights did Weber Marketing own that allowed it to state in paragraph 3 of the agreement that, and I quote, hereby grants to UEN on an unlimited repeat basis during the term, as well as the names, likeness, and logos of those teams and participants in the games, solely in connection with the distribution, promotion, and broadcast of the games, by whatever means, on all forms of Internet protocol delivery to all Internet-capable devices, streaming, downloadable, and other non-tangible delivery to fixed and mobile platforms, including personal and other computers, cell phones, personal and other communication devices, personal and other digital devices, personal and other music, video, and or other audiovisual recorders, and or players, and or via podcast, and or via all personal, digital, mobile, and other devices, platforms, and services, whether known or hereafter devised, to any customer or audience worldwide, whether on a free paid subscription or other basis, as further set forth in this agreement, in connection with the distribution, promotion, and broadcast of the content. My question again is, what rights did Weber Marketing own that allowed it to state that in paragraph 3?
Objection asked and answered.
Like I mentioned before, we had those agreements in place that we discussed earlier prior to your questions about 10 minutes ago. And those agreements were with our attorney's office. And it's the same answer I just gave you like 5 minutes ago.
Continuing, what rights did Weber Marketing own that allowed it to state in paragraph 3 of the agreement, and I quote, UEN shall additionally have the right to advertise and promote the content and arrange for the advertising and promotion of the games in all media known or hereafter devised, the advertising rights, end quote.
Objection asked and answered.
Yeah, it's in Schedule A, the benefits that they will receive and the rights. It's in Schedule A.
And what's in Schedule A?
The question that you just asked.
No, my question was, what rights did Weber Marketing own that allowed it to state in paragraph 3 those things? So in Schedule A, is that proof that you had licensing agreements with these organizations?
They're proof that we had the benefits and rights to execute within this agreement to deliver of what was in the Schedule A.
What's the proof?
Okay. Schedule A says that Schedule A says category exclusivity, national battle of the bands, streaming rights, event media activation rights. It says HBCU band-based streaming. It says HBCU Pride Nation, and then it says Yard Talk one-on-one streaming. Okay. Those are the rights and benefits that were in Schedule A.
Okay, my question is did you provide the agreements that you had with these organizations on May 7th, 2021 to show that you had legal rights to those organizations?
Like I mentioned earlier, after reviewing the agreement with Weber Marketing and UEN, When I reviewed it earlier, it's the same comment that I said.
Which is what?
You can go on record like you did earlier.
What was your comment?
My comment is that after reviewing this agreement, I didn't see anywhere in the agreement where we had to supply that information to you, and can you identify where that is?
When you say that information, what information are you referring to?
The question that you just asked me.
Which is what?
You tell me. You just asked me the question.
Is it your testimony that you didn't have to supply proof that you had the rights to any of the companies in Exhibit A, specifically, repeating once again, you didn't have to show proof that you had the rights to HBCU game day streaming? Is that your testimony?
Objection, legal cause for legal conclusion, and asked and answered several times.
Is that your testimony?
Like I stated earlier.
Calls for a legal conclusion, asked and answered. I object.
Like I mentioned earlier, I have already answered that question, and you have it.
Mr. Weber, you have not answered my question. My question is it your testimony that you did not have to provide proof that you had the rights to HBCU game day streaming? Your lawyer can't testify for you. Only you can
Same objection. Asked and answered, legal cause for legal conclusion.
Objection, asked and answered, cause for legal conclusion.
Thank you, because Mr. Porter wasn't able to get it out. Can you answer the question?
Like I mentioned earlier, after reviewing the agreement, during the recess, the 5-minute recess break that we have, I didn't identify where it showed that I had to show you that. So can you identify where it says that?
Okay. So you didn't find anywhere in the agreement where you had to show proof that you had the rights to HBCU game day streaming, correct?
I'm asking you to identify that.
Is that your testimony that you can find anywhere in the agreement that you had the rights to HBCU?
Objection,
game day
asked and answered.
streaming?
Come on.
Please give me the courtesy of finishing. If you pose an objection, you can do so after I've asked my question, but do not interrupt me again. Madam Court Reporter, please read back the question.
So you didn't get the whole question out. Is it your testimony you couldn't find anywhere in the agreement that you had the rights to HBCU game day? And then we objected.
Okay. All right, re-ask the question. Is it your testimony that you did not have to prove that you had any rights to HBCU game day streaming?
Objection, asked and answered. He's been asked this question 5 times in a row. He's given the same response. Don't answer the question.
Are you instructing him
I'm
not to answer?
instructing not to answer the question.
Madam Court Reporter, please mark this. Mr. Weber, is it your testimony that in May of 2021 you do not have to show proof that Weber Marketing owned the rights to HBCU Pride Nation streaming?
Like I mentioned earlier. Beg your pardon?
Objection, asked and answered.
Like I mentioned earlier, when I reviewed the agreement, it didn't state in there of the reference of what you're asking for, and so I stick to the question, stick to the answer that I provided you over the last 5 times.
Which is you didn't have to provide it because it wasn't in there.
Objective
I didn't say
form.
that.
Form.
Okay, what is your answer?
Objective form. Asked and answered. He's answered this question over and over and over. You got to move on.
Yeah.
Just Joe, please instruct him not to. We're not going back down this rabbit hole. This is insane.
Are you instructing him not to answer?
I've instructed him already not to answer. You keep asking the same question.
Madam Court Reporter, please mark this question. Mr. Weber, is it your testimony that Weber Marketing did not have to show proof to UEN that Weber Marketing had the rights to Yard Talk 101 streaming?
I answered that already.
Answer the question.
I answered it. My answer to you is I answered that already.
I don't know what that answer is. Please.
Objective form.
I've answered the question already.
Please answer it again.
Objective form. Asked and answered. Calls for a legal conclusion.
Unless your attorney instructs you not to answer, you have to answer the question.
He's already instructed me not to answer.
This is a different question.
Well, I'm not answering because I already answered that question already. It's the same.
Are you instructing him not to answer?
Do not answer the question.
Madam Court Reporter, please mark this question. apologize. Has this document been marked?
Which one?
Count the pages. The back pages are different.
Were you asking about if you marked the June 16th email we talked about?
I'm sorry, I don't have the document in front of me
Yeah,
right now.
we're looking at the June 23rd, and it looks like it's March 6th. Let me just make sure that's all.
Mr. Roy, you also talked about a June 16th email that I don't think we marked.
So this is the court reporter. I'm looking to see if we've already marked this exhibit, and so since I can't take anybody down that's speaking while I'm doing this, so just want you to know it's not on record. Thank you.
Let's go off the record so we can mark some documents.
Off record at 3:14 p.m. On record at 3:33 p.m.
Yes, I did.
Mr. Weber, did you ever tell Christina Tyson of Pepsi not to do business with UEN?
No, I don't recall.
Who's Christina Tyson?
Representative from PepsiCo.
And you have business with PepsiCo?
We work with PepsiCo, yes.
When you say we, who's we?
As far as weapon marketing.
Does the Swac work with PepsiCo?
Yes, Swac does work with PepsiCo.
Were you ever at a meeting with Christina Tyson in April of 2022?
I don't recall. April 2000, what day is that on? I'm not supposed to know what day that is.
Do you keep meetings in your calendar?
Some I do, but it wouldn't be in the calendar from then.
And why is that?
Because I've switched outlooks.
And when did you switch outlooks?
Probably about a year and a half, maybe a year and a half ago, maybe, I think. Not particularly sure.
Okay. And do you have proof of when you switched it?
I would have to ask my IT team. I wouldn't know that off the top of my head.
And who's part of your IT team?
It's an independent contractor.
And what's his name?
Ryan Rose.
And what company does he work with?
He has his own company.
And what's the company called?
ITT Tech or something like that, I think. I'm not particularly sure off the top of my head.
And do you have a phone number for him?
Yeah, I got a phone number for him.
Can you provide the phone number, please?
Sure. Seven 891-8675.
And his name is?
Ryan Rose.
And he's the gentleman who switched your contacts, your open?
No, my Outlook when we went to Microsoft Teams.
What relationship do you have with Christina Tyson?
I don't have one.
Do you speak to her often?
No, I haven't spoken to Christina in a number of years. I don't even know if she's with PepsiCo anymore.
Okay. Do you know if Urban Edge was doing work with Pepsi?
I have no idea.
Did you ever have a conversation with Ms. Tyson regarding UEN?
No.
When did you and the commissioner have a conversation about UEN doing work with Pepsi?
I can't speak on behalf of the commissioner, but like I said, I didn't have a conversation with her about that.
Did you ever have a conversation with the commissioner regarding UEN doing work with Pepsi?
Nope.
Okay. Did you ever ask the commissioner if UEN had rights to Swac events?
Commissioner has always stated that rights is only done directly with the conference office, and the conference office controls those rights. So I have no idea. But I do know that the conference has a media deal with ESPN.
And when did this deal form?
Before my time. It was always in place before I got there. It wasn't any of my knowledge or agreement. I don't have that agreement. I wouldn't know.
Did you, the commissioner, and Ms. Tyson ever have a meeting together for any reason in 2022?
No.
Do you remember any conversation where Ms. Tyson, the commissioner, and you were present?
We were all together at an event.
Which event?
Super Bowl.
What year?
The year was in Los Angeles.
Do you know what year that was?
No, not off the top of my head. No.
Were you all in the same suite?
Nope.
So where did you meet with Ms. Tyson?
We just spoke in the lobby and greeted each other when we were checking in.
Were you with the commissioner at that time?
Nope.
So when you met with Ms. Tyson, were you ever with the commissioner at that Super Bowl meeting?
We did not have a Super Bowl meeting, one. Two, I think the commissioner came a little bit later on when we were kind of hanging out in the lobby, and we all spoke. And it wasn't just us, it was a number of people. So it wasn't just Christina, the commissioner, and myself. It was a number of people socializing.
So at the Super Bowl, were you in a suite or in seats?
I was in a regular seat.
Who were you sitting with?
My wife and Jay Howard.
Who's Jay Howard?
He's on-cast broadcaster for ESPN. He has a relationship with Pepsi. So he went to Howard. He used to play football.
Who do you interact with at Pepsi?
The multicultural team.
And who's on that team?
It's a number of people. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but my primary day-to-day is Charmise.
Charmise who?
I have to look up her last name. Charmise, maybe Tyson? Not Tyson, but let me see. Armstrong. Charmise Armstrong.
When was the last time you spoke with Ms. Armstrong?
Either Wednesday or Thursday.
Did UEN come up?
Never. UEN has never come up with a conversation.
With Ms. Armstrong?
Yes.
How about with Ms. Tyson?
UAE has never come up for us, no. And Ms. Tyson works in, I don't even know what division she works in, to be quite honest with you. So I have no day-to-day with Ms. Tyson, and it's not a subject of conversation for us, no.
What's not a subject of conversation for you?
UEN.
Who are your closest assistants?
Assistants? I don't have any assistants.
Who are your closest independent contractors?
My entire team. People first.
And who do that consist of?
A team of 10 people.
And who are they?
Reginald Scott, Kevin Oliphant, Damon White, James Bryant, Nick Worthy, Jabari Morgan, Derek Ross, Bailey Granberry, Justice Purnell, and I'm missing somebody, Tristo Johnson. Tristo.
Did you say, what's Reagan's last name? Or Regina?
Regina.
The first person you mentioned, name starts with R.
I said Reggie Scott.
Reggie.
Yeah.
Have you ever, and Mr. Scott, ever had a conversation with Ms. Tyson?
Mr. Scott wouldn't have any conversations with Ms. Tyson. Neither will my team. I don't know what Ms. Tyson does for Pepsi.
Yeah. Has Jabari Morgan had a conversation with Pepsi on your behalf?
Jabari Morgan is our lead client service rep for Pepsi account.
And what does that entail?
Just managing deliverables from day to day when it comes to executing contractual obligations.
And what does Weber Marketing do for Pepsi?
We manage a tailgate tour. We manage experiential opportunities for them.
Which are?
Experiential events. You know what experiential events are, right?
I have no idea what that is.
Okay. So they're like when you go out and you might have a display at a gas station and you're passing out starring. Or if you're at the All-Star game and you set up a big area with staging and all of that stuff. So we manage experiential opportunities for them.
And is Jabari Morgan the point person for that?
He's not the point person, he's just the day-to-day from the client sales.
Who's the point person?
It's a combination. So when it comes to production and operations, that's done through Reggie and Damon. When it comes to PR, that's done through Derek Ross. When it comes to client service and deliverable needs, that's Jabari. So it's broken out in different divisions.
Can you tell me to speak a little lower?
Sure. Okay.
Harley. Who provided the Super Bowl tickets for you?
PepsiCo.
Were you sitting with PepsiCo employees?
Beg your pardon?
Were you sitting with PepsiCo employees at the Super Bowl?
They were kind of scattered around. Mostly all the vendors and clients were kind of sitting together.
Did you sit with the CEO of Pepsi?
No, I'm not that high up on the totem pole.
Have you ever met with him?
I met him once.
When?
At a Sports Illustrated party.
What year?
Same year, Super Bowl year.
What month?
Super Bowl month.
Where was the party?
Sports Illustrated party in Culver City.
And did you have a conversation with him?
Yeah, just thanking him for supporting HBCUs and how, we appreciate their support.
Okay. Did you mention UEN?
By no means.
Did Pepsi provide the commissioner's tickets to the Super Bowl?
No, he was done directly with NFL. He gets a lot of invites.
If Ms. Tyson from Pepsi said the following, during my recent travels, I met with the commissioner of the Swac and Weber Marketing, and we were informed that Urban Edge Network doesn't have the licensing rights to sell ads for Swac sports games. Would she be lying?
No, that's a conversation that the commissioner had. So I wasn't. That's a commissioner conversation.
So the commissioner had that conversation with her?
Not particularly the exact details of the conversation, but that would be a conversation that the commissioner had.
Well, she said that she had the conversation with Weber Marketing and the commissioner of SWAC.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, we were in a social setting with more than multiple people, having multiple conversations. So I was in the area, but I wasn't directly, engaged with their conversation at that particular moment.
But you were aware that the commissioner and Ms. Tyson talked about UEN, correct?
Nah, just aware that they were having a conversation.
Okay. Is this the time when they had the conversation about UEN not representing the SWAC?
I'm not particularly sure. That would be a question you have to ask the commissioner.
Okay. Are you aware that this commissioner from SWAC informed Pepsi that UEN did not represent the SWAC?
That was a question or information that you need to get from SWAC.
That's not my question.
That's my answer to you.
No, that's not my question. My question is, were you aware that the commissioner and Ms. Tyson had a conversation about UEN?
I have no dealings with how the commissioner communicates to whoever he communicates to. That's commissioner's dealings. And I'm not privileged to all conversations that the commissioner has.
Is it your testimony that Ms. Tyson is lying when she said that during my recent travels I met with the commissioner and Weber Marketing and we were informed that Urban Edge Network doesn't have the licensing rights to sell ads for SWAC sports games?
Like I mentioned earlier, we were all in a social setting, multiple people having multiple conversations. I don't know exactly the detailed conversation the commissioner and Ms. Tyson had, so I can't answer that. You have to answer that to the commissioner.
Well, did you tell Ms. Tyson that SWAC didn't have the rights to sell SWAC sporting games?
Objection as to what time? Vegas time. When?
In 2022.
2000, is that when the Super Bowl was?
The Super Bowl's held every year.
Huh?
Los Angeles Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl's held every year.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, it was a lot of people gathering around in the area, being social to one another, interacting to one another, and I wasn't privileged to everybody's conversations.
Thank you for that very detailed answer.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't the answer to my question.
But that's my answer.
Okay, it's not the answer to my question. My question is, did you have a conversation with Ms. Tyson that UEN didn't have the rights to market SWAC sports games?
Like I mentioned earlier, we were all gathered in the area, being social with one another, and I wasn't privy to all those conversations that were going on. Those type of conversations are done directly with the commissioner and whoever might ask him those particular questions, because we don't have the rights to discuss those items.
Okay. Again, very detailed answer. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't answer my question. My question is, did you, Mr. Weber, have a conversation with Ms. Christina Tyson at any time in 2022 that UEN did not have the rights to market SWAC sports games?
I cannot answer that question because the commissioner takes the lead on all of those type of questions. Those questions will be directed to him. So if she would ask me that, I would say direct that question to the commissioner.
Okay. So if she said that you told her that UEN didn't have the rights to SWAC sports games, she would be lying. Is that your testimony?
I'm not saying that.
Like the form.
Okay.
Please answer the question.
Like I mentioned earlier, we were all in the area having conversations, social conversations, and my conversation of topic is not eating. Okay.
So she would be lying. Is that your statement?
Objective form. Asked and answered.
I can't speak on her behalf, and I can't tell you if she's lying or not because I'm not an attorney.
But you didn't tell her that's UEN did not have the rights to Swac.
Like I mentioned earlier, we were having all conversations, social conversations in that area. Those type of conversations are directed to the conference office, and the commissioner conducts his business accordingly how he responds.
Did the commissioner ever tell you that he had a conversation with Ms. Christina Tyson?
Like I said, we were all in that area, all talking among one another, having social conversations with multiple people, so he didn't have to tell me because we were all talking to each other.
Okay. Did you see him have a conversation with Christina Tyson at the Super Bowl in Los Angeles?
I saw the commissioner having multiple conversations with multiple people.
And was one of those people Ms. Tyson?
Yeah, because we were all in the lobby area having a social moment and having a social moment.
Was Jabari Arnold at the Super Bowl in LA?
Jabari who?
Jabari Morgan.
Yes.
And was he there on behalf of Pepsi?
He was there on behalf of Weber Marketing.
Okay. How many tickets did Weber Marketing receive for the Super Bowl?
One ticket for me, and then the day of, we were able to find 2 other tickets for Jabari and my wife.
Did you find them through Pepsi?
Yes.
Did you find them through Christina Tyson?
No.
Who provided them?
The executive assistant to one of the executives that were on site.
Okay. Take a quick break. I want to see if there's anything else. This may be it.
Off record at 3:54 p.m.
Yes.
On record at 4:08 p.m.
All right, Mr. Weber, I just want to ask a few last questions. So you don't know Christina Tyson well, correct?
No.
I
don't even have a number.
Okay. Have you met with her more than 2 times?
The second time was to help us get an MBE.
What's an MBE?
Minority Business Certification.
Okay, and how did she help you with that?
It's a program that PepsiCo has for minority vendors. And then they put you in this program, and then you follow the procedures to fill out the paperwork so you can become a minority certified business.
Okay, and how did she assist?
She connected us with a consultant, so to speak, that helped us formulate and put together our paperwork. It was independent.
And how many years have you worked with Pepsi?
It was the year after COVID. I would say 2020, 2021, somewhere around in there. It was after COVID.
So in approximately 3.5 years, you've only met with her twice, correct?
Yeah, she's not in the line of business of us working with PepsiCo. She only helps out with MBE certifications.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she didn't help get you the tickets, correct?
No. She doesn't have that type of authority.
And who did you say helped you get the tickets?
An executive assistant.
And what was her name again?
Kim. And she's no longer with PepsiCo anymore. Kim. What's Kim's last name? I'm good with first names, right? But them last names. Kim Jones. Kim Jones.
Okay. And you were not ever in a suite at the Super Bowl with Miss Tyson, correct?
Nope.
And you were never in a suite at the Super Bowl with the CEO of Pepsi, correct?
Nope.
And when you were talking in the lobby with the PepsiCo people, the CEO was there or he was not there?
No, he was not there, and it wasn't just PepsiCo people. It was a whole different groups of folks, non-PepsiCo related to.
Okay, and what does Weber Management do for Pepsi?
Weber Marketing?
Weber Marketing.
We handle all their experiential, like I mentioned earlier. Like if you come in and have a Starry can sampling at a gas station, it's the same thing I just mentioned to you. It's a gas station, or if we're at a big event and we execute on their behalf, or if we have some staging or some tent pop-ups or something like that relating to an event.
What executives from Pepsi do you work with?
Kent Montgomery.
Who else?
That's the top executive.
But who else from Pepsi do you work with?
It's a number of people. I don't know all the names off the top of my head. Charmise is our day-to-day. Kirsty is Charmise's boss. And Ashley works in that division as well.
What's Charmaine's last name?
Like I informed and told you earlier. Let me look it up again and tell you again.
Armstrong.
Thank you, sir.
And what's Kirsty's last name?
Kirsty's last name is... What's Kirsty's last name? She just emailed me today, too. Kirsty. Turner.
And what's Ashley's last name?
Booker.
And who do you work with at GM?
We work with their agency.
Which agency?
And actually, that's done directly through the Swac conference.
Which agency?
Jack Morton.
Jack
Morton.
And what do you do for GM?
I don't do anything directly for GM. We work for the Swac. The Swac has a deal with GM, and we manage those deliverables.
And what are those deliverables?
They're kind of like the deliverables that you had earlier. It's along the line of this.
What's this?
The document that you provided, Exhibit 2.
Okay.
Per you, your Exhibit 2 document. This is what we use for all our clients, which is their deliverables that we work off of for deadlines and to complete the work.
And who do you work with at GM?
Like I said, our deal is directly done with the Swac, and the Swac deal is done directly with Jack Morton and GM. So we do day-to-day with the agency.
When did you start working with GM?
When was Trayvon Martin? Not Trayvon Martin, but when was the I Can't Breathe? When did that?
George Floyd.
George Floyd. When was that? It's when all the big brands start supporting the minority events. So I would say, what's that, like 21-ish maybe? 2021-ish?
And what do you do for GM?
Like I said earlier, our deal is directly with the Swac, and then the Swac deal is done with GM and Jack Morton. And we manage deliverables, like I mentioned in Exhibit 2, that you provided to us.
Okay. Anything else? Do you work with Procter & Gamble?
Yes, with the National Battle of the Bands from a regional standpoint. So not national, regional team.
What do you do with Procter & Gamble?
Procter & Gamble provides sampling for our National Battle of the Bands event, exit sampling.
What does that mean, exit sampling?
Okay, so you know how when you go to an event and they might give you something when you leave?
Okay.
Either for Procter & Gamble, like a little toothpaste crest, or it might be some hair care product. or like olive olé or something like that. So those are sampling items that we distribute when fans are leaving the stadium.
When did you start working with Procter & Gamble?
Let's see. We started working with Procter & Gamble, I think, when we started doing work in Houston for the Battle of the Bands. So I guess 19-ish, 2018, 2019.
And you still do work for Procter & Gamble?
I hope so. Right now, we don't have an agreement with them, but they're supposed to come on board with the Battle of the Bands event.
You still work with GM?
Like I mentioned earlier, on behalf of the Swac conference, we manage the GM contract. Weber Marketing does not have a direct deal with GM.
Florida Orange Blossom Classic and the Bayou Classic.
What do you do with the Florida Classic?
I don't do anything with the Florida Classic. We have an experiential setup that we do on behalf of brands at the Florida Classic, but we don't do any game management. We don't do any ticket or talent fulfillment. We just come in and execute on behalf of brands within the activation footprint.
And who do you work with? What brands at the Florida Classic?
It varies from year to year. Last year we had Cricket over there. I think before in the past it's been Cracker Barrel over there. Pepsi. We'll do a sound stage for Pepsi over there. So it just depends from year to year which brands might want to come in and execute at the Florida Classic.
And what do you do at the Bayou Classic?
At the Bayou Classic, it's mostly a grip and grin for me event. It's mostly a grip and grin for me.
What's that?
Gripping and grinning? You don't know what gripping and grinning is?
I do not.
Man, you gotta be. Listen, all these questions you ask and you don't know what gripping and grinning is? That's hard for me to believe. But that's when you engage with potential consumers or engage with potential partners and you're socializing and building a relationship with them. You're gripping and grinning.
Did you discuss UEN with anyone at Florida?
At where?
Orange Blossom.
Only thing I told Orange Blossom was that we were in a legal dispute and I couldn't talk about it, and that your dealings with them is your dealings with them.
And who'd you speak with?
The executive director, Kendra.
What's the last name?
Bullock.
What'd you tell him?
I told him what I just told you. We can't really talk about it. We're in a legal dispute. Your dealings with them is your dealings with them.
Who'd you speak with at the Bayou Classic about UEN?
No one.
Did you tell anyone at GM that they shouldn't do work with UEN?
No.
Are you certain?
I'm pretty positive because we were in a legal dispute. Like I told them, like I told everybody, I'm not at liberty to talk about anything involving UEN because we're under, we're going through legal, so I can't talk about that.
And who did you tell that to?
I tell that to anybody who asks me.
And who's asked you?
Kendra has asked me.
Who else?
That's about much as I can recall right now. The most recent has been Kendra. Yeah.
I have no further questions. Subject to being recalled for all the areas of testimony that were not answered.
Joe, you want to go? You want to
go
ask
first.
questions?
Both of you
Chisara, do you want to ask your questions first?
Yeah, let's make, we take like a 10-minute break and come back.
Sure.
Okay. At 4:30. Start up at 4:30.
Off record at 4:20 p.m.
I'm trying to sit straight.
On record at 4:30 p.m.
Good afternoon, Mr. Weber. My name is Chisara Avia Bunker. and I am the attorney today representing the Southwestern Athletic Conference. How are you today?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Great. Thank you for your time. I'm going to ask you some questions. If you can't hear me, please let me know, and I'll try to be louder. That work for you?
Yes, ma'am.
If I'm asking you something and it's not clear, please ask me to rephrase, and I'm happy to.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm also on Zoom, as you see. I'm probably going to show you some documents, and if I do that, I'm going to share my screen or put it in the chat, so I'll give you a heads up if I get there.
Okay, awesome.
So, Mr. Weber, today the phrase HBCU was used a lot. Could you just let us know, for the record, when you were talking about HBCU, what did that term mean to you?
HBCU, Historical Colleges and University, for me it means the culture and advancing students to create opportunities so they can better their lives in our communities that we serve.
And so HBCU includes historically black colleges and universities, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And an HBCU, it's not one specific school, is it?
No, ma'am. It's a combination of over 100 schools throughout the country.
And similar to what you said, it's a combination. An HBCU is not a specific athletic conference either, right?
Objection, leading.
Is an HBCU an athletic conference?
No.
Is the Swac, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, is the Swac an HBCU?
Objection, leading.
You can lead in a deposition. It's a deposition.
You can answer the question.
No.
I'll ask it again.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, you said no, but the question is, would you answer no? The question is the Swac an HBCU?
No.
And earlier today, you talked about certain rights. Do you remember talking about rights for a while?
Yeah, we talked about it a lot.
Okay. And at some point, Mr. Weber, I think I'm repeating you. At some point, I heard you saying, we don't have media rights for the Swac. Does that sound like something you said today?
That's correct.
Just to have a clear record, when you said we don't have media rights for the Swac, who are you referring to?
Weber Marketing.
Okay, and so Weber Marketing does not have media rights.
No, ma'am.
Has it ever?
No, ma'am.
You testified that Weber Marketing is the Swac agent of record, is that right?
Agency of record, yes, ma'am.
Agency of record, okay. And with respect to being the Swac agency of record or agent of record, Weber Marketing's role is to help get the Swac sponsorship, is that right?
Objection, leading.
You can answer the question.
Yes, our objective is to get corporate partners to support the Swac in their institutions, yes.
Does Weber Marketing have any role with respect to the Swac outside of what you just described?
Objection, leading.
No.
Lax Foundation.
And Weber Marketing, is it any sort of agent for the Swac related to the Swac broadcast rights?
Objection, leading. Lax Foundation.
No.
If that's the question, you can answer.
No.
Okay. And did Weber Marketing at any point in time have the ability to give anyone, including Urban Edge, access to broadcast any Swac football games?
Objection, leading. Lax Foundation.
No.
At any point in time, did Weber Marketing have the ability to give anyone, including Urban Edge, access to broadcast any Swac basketball games?
Objection, leading. Lax Foundation.
No. Has to be done directly with the Swac.
Can you specify when you say that what has to be done directly with the Swac?
Like, say, if anybody approaches us for any potential media opportunity with the Swac, we have to refer them directly to the Swac.
Objection, Lax Foundation.
And let's talk about this foundation objection that we keep getting. Mr. Weber, does Weber Marketing have any sort of agreement with the Swac? I know you testified earlier to this, but I just want to give Mr. Roy the record he's asking for. So the question is, Does Weber Marketing have any sort of agreement with Swac?
Yes, we have our agency service agreement, yes.
Objection lacks foundation.
Okay, and what do you understand that agency service agreement to be about?
Objection calls for legal conclusion, lacks foundation, leading.
You can answer.
Helping the SWAC to develop partnerships where funding distribution goes back to universities.
And I'm going to ask the court reporter, ma'am, can you please let me know what exhibit number was the final exhibit used today?
7.
7 was used, so we'll be at number 8, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Weber, I'm going to share my...
Counsel, before you go further and show him an exhibit, can you please, no one else has laptops, or can you send the document to us before you go any further?
I wasn't able to receive any documents from you, so I'm going to just kind of approach it the same way you did.
First of all, you didn't request.
And I believe also if the court reporter able to share any documents on the screen, I think there should be extra laptops there.
She is not able to. So I have an objection for you showing any documents that other counsel in the room are not privy to. Now,
okay, well, you should be okay with this because I'm using the base marks document that has been already produced in this lawsuit.
I was not given notice.
I still email it to you as a professional courtesy.
Yes, please email it before you ask any questions about it, please.
I'm going to continue. So,
Counsel, I'm stating before you show the document to the witness, please email it.
Counsel, I heard you, and I can address what you said, and so I can probably address it more effectively if you let me even send you an email. Can I do that, counsel?
Please send the email before you ask any questions.
You didn't send any documents before you asked any questions. You didn't even admit all the documents that you asked questions about.
Did you
why am I held to this standard?
Because you didn't request any, number one. So if
I requested to attend remotely. You also said that you were going to give remote access. Counsel?
Counsel, I'm just saying I'm requesting that you first show the documents to me before you ask me any questions on it, or else it's going to invalidate all these questions.
This has been addressed, Mr. Robert. I think you're now just kind of interrupting our time for questioning. So I will email you as I said I will, and I will continue with my questions.
I will let you know when I've received it. I've not yet received it.
Thank you. I'll let you know when I send it. I'll consider faster if you let me send it. As I was saying, and you have an email in your inbox now, Mr. Boyd.
Can you hold on, please?
I'm submitting exhibit number 8, which I'm sharing the screen, and it's already been sent to Mr. Boyd.
Counsel, I've not yet received the document, please.
Maybe refresh your inbox.
I am doing that right now.
Wonderful. Mr. Weber, feel free to ask me if you need me to scroll to any pages or change the view on this document, make it bigger or smaller. I'm happy to.
No, I'm good on your cue.
Okay. So I am, after much anticipation, putting up on the screen what is going to be marked Exhibit 8.
Counsel, I've not yet received the document.
You still haven't received it?
I have not.
That's taken a long time. We can go off the record to preserve the witness time.
Okay.
Off record at 4:40 p.m. On record at 4:41 p.m.
Mr. Weber, are you able to see a document on my screen called Agency Services Agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
And is this, I'm just reading what it says, Agency Agreement dated June 11, 2019.
Yes, ma'am.
And it says it's entered in between Weber Marketing and Consulting LLC and the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Did you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
And we can scroll through this. I'd like you to, after I scroll through, can you let me know if this is an agreement that you recognize, and if it seems like an accurate version of that agreement?
Yes,
I'll scroll and you let me know, okay?
it's an agreement that I recognize.
Okay, and I'm gonna go to the end of it. And this was signed, there's one signature page, there's schedule, there's a second signature page. Having seen this, could you tell me what this document is, please, Mr. Weber?
This means that we're the agency of record for the SWAC that gives us the opportunity to develop business and partnership opportunities with sponsors and bring them into the SWAC for us to fulfill and execute.
And is this an accurate copy of that agreement?
Yes,
to your
ma'am.
knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
This is going to be marked as Exhibit 8. And Mr. Weber, I'm also going to show another agreement that I'm going to put back on screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is both agency services agreement, says dated June 11, 2022, between Weber Marketing and Consulting LLC and the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And I'll scroll through this one. I'd like to ask you if you can let me know what this document is.
That document was renewal document, renewal agreement for our partnership with the SWAC.
Okay, and is this an accurate version of that document?
Yes, ma'am.
This renewal document is going to be Exhibit 9. And Mr. Weber, these two contracts that we just looked at, earlier today you've been talking about what rights Weber Marketing has related to the class. Is your understanding that those rights come from these contracts that we just looked at?
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any sort of other contracts out there between Weber Marketing and the class?
No, ma'am.
And what is the purpose of the contract that we just looked at between Weber Marketing and the class?
Objection leading.
So that we have the rights to go after potential sponsors, the executive rights to go after potential sponsors without any interference from a third party or outside source who does not have those rights.
Can you give an example of what you mean by sponsor?
If we have just a Walmart of the world, if they're interested in doing some type of sponsorship or partnership with the SWAC, we will discuss what those potential opportunities are. And then before we go to contract, we have to get all those items approved through the SWAC office that will let us either move forward or not move forward with those potential opportunities with whatever brand or partnership that we'll bring to the table.
Is there any, I hear an echo, do you hear that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any action that Weber Marketing can take related to the SWAC outside of, or without getting the SWAC approval?
Objection leading lacks foundation.
No, we have to get SWAC approval for all of it.
Weber Marketing has to get SWAC approval for what?
Any deal that we bring to the table when it comes to sponsorship development.
Objection leading lacks foundation.
Are there any deals outside of sponsorship development that Weber Marketing brings to the SWAC?
We can bring potential offers, but the SWAC still has to approve that, whether it's merchandise, whether it's media, whether it's engagement from a workforce readiness standpoint. All those items still have to be approved by the SWAC.
Has Weber Marketing asked the Swac to approve any sort of media deal related to Urban Edge Network?
We did not ask them to approve. We just made to the introduction to explore an opportunity.
Objection lacks foundation.
You spoke about a meeting that was attended by the commissioner and yourself and Mr. Hardy Pelt. Is that correct?
It was a Zoom call to explore a potential opportunity for Credit Versio and for a potential exploration for media.
Exploration for media, did you say?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall roughly when that Zoom meeting happened?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Was it before Urban Edge and Weber Marketing signed the contract that was admitted today as Exhibit 3?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you, to the best of your recollection, summarize what was discussed in that meeting?
Just exploring if it was an opportunity, in which that's when I found out, like I mentioned earlier, that the SWAC is responsible for approving through the President's Council any type of media deals, and all of those conversations are done directly with the SWAC office for consideration and approval.
And did you identify everybody that participated in that meeting?
I can't recall.
To the best of your recollection, do you remember that Hardy Pelt was in that meeting?
Yes, he was.
Do you recall whether or not Todd Brown was in that meeting too?
No, I don't recall Todd Brown being a part of that meeting.
And today you talked a lot about just interactions that Weber Marketing had with Urban Edge Network. Can you identify who were the representatives from the Edge Network that Weber Marketing has communicated with over time?
Victor Hardy Pelt.
Anybody else?
No, our day-to-day and our direct conversations was with Victor Hardy Pelt.
Before Urban Edge signed the contract with Weber Marketing that's been admitted in Exhibit 3, did Weber Marketing inform Urban Edge that it did not have the ability to give Urban Edge any access to Swac media?
Objection foundation. Leading.
You can answer.
Yeah, so that's what came out of the call that we had, in which that the conference reiterated to us their intentions of how they need to proceed or how they need to deal with anybody interested in SWAC media.
Madam Court Reporter, can you read back the last question and answer?
Was there a question to ask the court reporter to read them back?
Yes.
We can keep moving. You can read your own notes.
Madam Court Reporter, can you read? Counsel, I've asked that the court reporter.
I have a question pending, counsel.
No, you didn't. Can you read back the last question and answer?
You want to go off the record again?
Sure, let's do that.
Let's go off the record.
Off record at 4:50 p.m. On record at 4:51 p.m.
I'd like to go to the exhibit 3 that you had earlier today. Are you pull your copy up, please?
The exhibit to...
It should be marked by Mr. Roy as exhibit 3. Does it look like this document, the license distribution agreement?
Yeah, I got it pulled up now.
Okay, let me know when you're there, and I have one on the screen too.
Okay, I'm there.
Okay, so I'm going to go on Exhibit 3, and you talked earlier about the Schedule A. Does that ring a bell?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to go to the Schedule A of this contract, which is the licensing agreement between Weber Marketing and Urban Edge.
Yes, ma'am.
And in Schedule A, Mr. Weber, there are some different, I guess, entity names listed, and I'm going to ask you about that, okay?
Okay.
And so this says benefits and rights for National Battle of the Bands. Do you see that on Schedule A?
Yes, ma'am.
What is National Battle of the Bands?
National Battle of the Bands is an intellectual property of Weber Marketing. It's an HBCU marching band event.
Does it have any sort of relationship at all to the Southwestern Athletic Conference?
No, ma'am.
And what sort of benefiting right, that's what's listed on the page, was being given to Urban Edge in this contract related to National Battle of the Bands, to the best of your knowledge?
Objection leading.
So they would get the rights like most corporate partners would when it comes to signage, marketing, streaming opportunities, website branding, PR, social and media engagement, and then on-site branding presence.
I'm going to go to next page. Do you see the reference to HBCU game day streaming?
Yes, ma'am.
OTT rights, website, and digital branding in this document?
Yes, ma'am.
What is HBCU game day?
HBCU Game Day is like the ESPN of sports. They are a news agency that spreads the word about HBCUs, HBCU games, HBCU culture and life. So they're like a ESPN version, an HBCU ESPN version of the network.
Does HBCU Game Day have any relationship to the Southwestern Athletic Conference?
I don't, not that I can recall directly, because like I mentioned earlier, the Swac, they would do their own type of media engagement opportunities with whatever particular entity. So, but not that I can recall, do they have like a deal directly with HBCU Game Day, but I don't particularly know.
Objection.
Okay, let me ask you.
Objection, Lex Foundation.
Is HBCU Game Day the same thing as the Southwestern Athletic Conference?
No.
Are they different?
Yeah, Southwestern Athletic Conference is an NCAA conference that governs the 12 bodies of institutions that's under the Southwest Athletic Conference umbrella. HBCU Game Day is a social and digital media outlet that broadcasts, that tells the story, that delivers content to consumers so they know the most up-to-date news about what's going on in HBCU world.
Also on this page, we see HBCU Pride Nation streaming, OTT rights, website, and digital branding. Do you see that, Mr. Weber?
Yes, ma'am.
Is HBCU Pride Nation the same thing as the Southwestern Athletic Conference?
No, ma'am.
Are they different?
HBCU Pride Nation is a social and digital content platform that talks and highlights the HBCU cultural experience from on-campus and Greek life activities.
And there's also Talk 101 streaming, OTT rights, website, and digital branding that's in this contract. Do you see that, Mr. Weber?
Yes, ma'am.
Is Your Talk 101 the same thing as the Southwestern Athletic Conference?
No, ma'am.
Are they different?
Yes, ma'am. Yard Talk 101 mostly focuses on campus life, and they do a lot of interviews with HBCU alums to provide the experience and cultural connection with the life of being in the HBCU world.
This Schedule A to the licensing and services agreement, well, it's called the licensing distribution agreement between Weber Marketing and Urban Edge Network, what was the purpose of Schedule A, Mr. Weber?
To outline a clear rights and benefits of the deliverable items that we had to execute on behalf of this agreement.
And so if it wasn't in Schedule A, is that because, is there a reason something wouldn't be in Schedule A?
No, all of our agreements within Schedule A identifies all the rights and benefits that we will execute on behalf of those agreements. So Schedule A, identifies all the rights and all the benefits and all the items that we need to execute for us assets when it comes to regards to partners that we have partnerships with.
And just to be crystal clear, Mr. Weber, can you please take a couple minutes if you need and just look through Schedule A and let me know if there's anything in there that concerns a right that is related to the Swac, the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
These rights don't have anything to do with the Southwestern Athletic Conference. These rights have to do with the National Battle of the Bands, HBCU Game Day, HBCU Pride Nation, and Yard Talk 101.
Is this the only contract that Weber Marketing had with Exhibit 3?
Yes, this is the only binding contract that we've had with them.
Okay, and did Weber Marketing at any point in time ever promise Urban Edge Network that it would give Urban Edge Network access at any time related to Swac football games?
No, ma'am.
Did Weber Marketing ever promise Urban Edge that it would provide Urban Edge Network access at any time related to Swac basketball games?
No, ma'am.
Did Weber Marketing ever promise Urban Edge that it would provide Urban Edge access at any time related to Swac softball games?
No, ma'am.
Did Weber Marketing ever promise Urban Edge that it would provide Urban Edge access at any time related to any Swac specific event?
No, ma'am.
Did Weber Marketing ever promise Urban Edge that it would provide Urban Edge the ability to have access to the Swac media?
Objection leading.
No, ma'am.
Did Weber Marketing ever promise Urban Edge that it would provide Urban Edge access to broadcast Swac content?
Objection leading.
Did Weber Marketing ever promise Urban Edge that it would provide access to stream on any sort of platform any Swac media?
No, ma'am.
Objection leading.
I want to go back to in the Schedule A, it's HBCU Game Day. Could you just explain for us what the scope of services were related to HBCU Game Day under this agreement with Urban Edge and Weber Marketing?
Yeah, they were going to provide second choice position with in-game highlight reels for all HBC, not all, but for HBCU games. So B-roll content, like sideline reporting footage, in-game like report backs, just like you would see with ESPN when they're at an SEC game, and they're reporting back, and then they're putting it on their social and digital platforms, as an example.
What do you mean by B-roll content, Mr. Weber?
What did I mean by what content?
B-roll.
Oh, B-roll. So B-roll is just like non-edited footage. So it could be people walking around in the parking lot tailgating. It can be capturing the little clips of cheerleaders doing some sideline cheerleading performances. It could be a highlight clip of a football touchdown score in the end zone, or a slam dunk in a basketball game, or a home run in a baseball game. So B-roll content is non-edited content that we were developing to provide to Urban Edge Network so they could build out and do whatever they wanted with the content.
You have no personal knowledge, Mr. Weber, about any specific conversation that the commissioner of the Swac of the Southwestern Athletic Conference had with anyone at Pepsi. Is that right?
Objection, Lax Foundation leading.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, privileged to all the commissioner's conversations that he has with various entities throughout the landscape of his professional business. So all I know is we work directly with PepsiCo, but I'm not privileged to all the conversations that the commissioner will have with PepsiCo about anybody.
And well, earlier today, Mr. Roy was asking you specifics about a conversation that he was asking about with the Swac commissioner and someone named Christina Tyson. Do you recall that?
Yes, I remember the questioning. Yes, ma'am.
Did you specifically participate yourself in a conversation with the Swac commissioner and anyone at Pepsi about Urban Edge Network?
No, ma'am.
Do you have personal knowledge yourself about any sort of conversation that the Swac commissioner had with anyone about Urban Edge Network?
No, ma'am. I just know that the commissioner typically likes to follow up whatever conversation that we're having out in a social setting. He'll follow up after that, either in writing or with a conversation.
But you yourself you don't personally know of anything that the commissioner said to anyone else about Urban Edge Network. Is that right?
Lax Foundation.
That's correct.
Do you have any sort of written approval from the Swac to do any deal related to Urban Edge? Does Web Marketing have any approval from the Swac?
No, ma'am.
Objection leading Lax Foundation.
No, ma'am.
Is there any aspect of the agreement that Web Marketing has with Urban Edge that gives Urban Edge rights to anything related to Swac television?
No,
Objection
ma'am.
leading Lax Foundation.
Is there any aspect of the agreements that we looked at earlier, the agency service agreement that Marketing has with the Swac? Is there any aspect of those agreements that gives Weber Marketing any rights related to Swac television?
No, ma'am.
Pass the witness.
Laura.
Yes. Mr. Weber, my name is LaRon Rogers. I have the pleasure of representing Dr. Charles McClellan, who, as you know, is the commissioner for the Southwest Athletic Conference.
Yes, sir.
Which I will abbreviate as the SWAC and refer to Dr. Charles McClellan as Dr. McClellan.
Okay.
Today's the first time we've met. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And wanted to just, for one second, go aside from the conversation with you, Mr. Roy, can we confirm, I don't think we did this as an administrative point, that the deposition here today is both Mr. Weber's individual deposition and his 30B6 deposition?
No, it's only his individual deposition.
Okay.
His B6 starts tomorrow.
Was that noted?
That was not noted. It was started today at 4 o'clock, or at I think it was 1 o'clock today. Mr. Roy?
Yes. We didn't finish his individual deposition until late this afternoon. I need to give you guys, counsel, time to question him. If you want to do it on a different day, let me know. Otherwise, it goes tomorrow.
Okay. We'll most likely do it on a different day. Okay. All right, we'll go back to you, Mr. Weber. Did you ever represent to Urban Edge that Weber Marketing had rights to broadcast SWAC sporting events like football, basketball, and the like in any conversation or in writing?
No, sir. That's the reason why we had the exploratory conversation and call with the commissioner.
To your knowledge, did Weber Marketing ever submit a proposal directly to the SWAC for you to televise, for Weber Marketing to televise or broadcast SWAC sporting events such as football, basketball, or volleyball?
No, sir.
Do you have any understanding or knowledge of whether Urban Edge ever submitted a proposal directly to the SWAC to televise or broadcast SWAC sporting events such as football, basketball, and volleyball?
Objection, Lex Foundation.
No, sir.
Prior to this lawsuit, did you have any knowledge of any agreement for Urban Edge to market General Motors products?
No, sir.
Prior to this lawsuit, were you aware that Urban Edge had a contract with Pepsi to execute on any advertising campaigns for Pepsi?
No, sir.
Objection, Lex Foundation.
Mr. Weber, did you ever have any conversation with Dr. McClellan related to an attempt to put Urban Edge out of business?
No, sir.
Have you had any conversations with Dr. McClellan regarding preventing Urban Edge from lawfully working with any SWAC member schools or institutions?
No, sir.
Objection, Lex Foundation.
Have you, in concert with Dr. McClellan, ever tried to prevent any brand from doing business with Urban Edge?
No, sir.
Objection, Lex Foundation.
Mr. Weber, have you ever had a conversation with Dr. McClellan regarding a plan to prevent any brands from doing business with Urban Edge?
No, sir.
Have you ever reviewed SWAC bylaws yourself?
Objection, Lex Foundation.
Not until they came out online, and somebody leaked them out online. Yeah.
Have you ever reviewed SWAC's media rights agreement with its member institutions?
Objection, Lex Foundation.
Did you ever have any conversations with Peak Sports regarding Urban Edge?
No, sir.
Objection, Lex Foundation.
You mentioned that you were familiar with Pepsi's director, Christina Tyson. Are you aware of any communications Dr. McClellan had with Ms. Tyson regarding Pepsi advertising with SWAC member institutions?
No, sir. I just know he was going to follow up with her in writing.
Were you present? Were you heard any conversations between Ms. Tyson and Dr. McClellan related to Urban Edge doing work or having any relationship with the SWAC conference?
No, sir.
One moment. Madam Court Reporter, can you mark that last question?
Are you aware of any well, that's a 30B6 question. Based on the agreement that's been marked here as Exhibit 3, the license and distribution agreement that Urban Edge and Weber entered, was it your understanding that Weber Marketing conveyed any rights to Urban Edge to televise or broadcast SWAC athletic contests such as football, basketball, and volleyball?
No, sir.
Prior to this lawsuit, did you know that Urban Edge had any contractual relationships with Peak Sports, Pepsi, or General Motors?
No, sir.
Objection, Lex Foundation.
Would any opportunities Hardy Victor Pelt brought to you, would those be received as an agent for the SWAC conference? Would you receive those opportunities as an agent? As an agency of record?
Are you talking about sponsorships?
Correct.
Sponsorships, yes.
So, for example, if Mr. Pelt brought a specific sponsorship, let's say Walmart, for example, and wanted SWAC member institutions to connect with Walmart, would your company be the proper channel for that opportunity to go through?
Yes, sir.
Objection calls for speculation, lacks foundation, improper
And-
hypothetical.
And would your company, Weber Marketing, do the due diligence to determine if that opportunity is a good fit for SWAC conference?
Objection
It's a
calls for,
combination between us and
please let me finish. Calls for speculation, improper hypothetical, lacks foundation.
Between the conference office and Weber Marketing.
And who would you work with at the conference office to review and vet potential sponsorship opportunities that were presented?
The commissioner.
Is there anyone else at the conference office that you would work with?
No, sir.
Within Exhibit 3, the license and distribution agreement and the Schedule A that's included therein, is it your understanding that none of the deliverables in Schedule A would have included the rights to televise or broadcast SWAC member institution sporting events such as football, basketball, and volleyball?
That is correct.
Do you believe it reasonable for anyone to interpret the license agreement to convey rights to broadcast SWAC athletic conference contests such as volleyball, basketball, and football to Urban Edge?
Objection calls for speculation.
No.
Please let me finish. Objection calls for speculation, lacks foundation.
No.
Was there any communication between yourself and anyone at Urban Edge that you intended to include football, basketball, baseball, softball, or any other contests outside of band competitions in the agreement, in the licensing agreement that's in Exhibit 3?
No.
Is it your understanding that the agreement in Exhibit 3 limits your deliverables that are listed in Schedule A?
That's correct.
And when you reviewed Schedule A throughout this deposition today, do you recall that it included SWAC's name anywhere in that deliverable?
No, sir.
And would you also agree that Schedule A does not include any sports other than bands performing or competing?
That's correct.
Counsel for Urban Edge made great effort to go through the whereas provisions in the licensing agreement at Exhibit A, and also referring to the term game. In the context of HBCUs, how would you describe how you generally view a game?
Objection lacks foundation. That calls for improper hypothetical.
An HBCU game is the tailgate experience. It's the bands. It's the cheerleaders. It's the Greek life. It's the step and stroll. It's fellowship. It's all of those items that consist of the HBCU game experience.
And did you go to an HBCU for undergrad?
Yes, sir.
And I know that Mr. Roy has some questions related to some of the things that surround HBCU experiences and the games. But can you describe whether there's times when there's a game and, do people always go to the actual football game when there's an event of such sort? Can you explain that a little bit?
Objection lacks foundation.
The HBCU game experience is a combination of the culture. So it's being out in the parking lot tailgating. It's waiting for the band to march into the stadium. It's watching the cheerleaders do their cheerleading competitions, in the tailgate area. It's the music. It's the talent. It's all of those things encompass an HBCU game experience.
Madam Court Reporter, can you please read back that last answer?
The HBCU Game experience is, it's a combination of the culture, so it's being out in the parking lot tailgating, it's waiting for the band to march into the stadium, it's watching the cheerleaders do their cheerleading competitions in the tailgate area, it's the music, it's the talent. All of those things encompass an HBCU experience.
Can we take a short break, please? Go to the men's room.
Okay. It's 5:18. We'll go back at 5:23.
Okay.
Off record at 5:17 p.m. On record at 5:24 p.m.
The court reporter must leave to go to the hospital at 5. It's now 5:15, so we need to end the deposition and continue it. So, is that?
I have 5 more minutes. And,
She-
and I just spoke with her.
Okay.
Just a couple more questions, and I think we're wrapped.
Also, I was just told that we have to vacate this at 5 o'clock because there's another party coming in.
Okay, we're gonna finish this. I have about 6 questions.
Is that okay?
Is that okay, Ms.
We have
Porter?
5
All right, perfect. Thank you.
I'm out.
Ready? Let's go.
Yeah, we're on record.
All right. Okay. Mr. Weber, in HBCU communities, would it be common for all activities surrounding an athletic event like a football game to generally be referred to as the game?
Yes, sir.
And have you been to a homecoming football game at
Objection, I'm sorry.
HBCU?
Objection, Lex Foundation.
Have you been to a homecoming football game at an HBCU?
Yes, sir.
Is it common for attendees to attend the festivities of the game but never set foot in the football stadium?
Yes, sir.
Or watch the players on the field or cheer for their team?
Objection, Lex Foundation.
Yes, sir.
Objection, Lex Foundation.
Yes, sir.
Does the letter that was, the breach letter that Urban Edge Council sent to you, do you recall it mentioning anything about Weber's failure to provide broadcasting rights to Swac football, basketball, or baseball, or any other Swac
No, sir.
athletic events specifically?
No, sir.
After the call that you had with Dr. McClellan and Hardy Victor Pelt, is there any reason that Urban Edge should have had any doubts about the rights it could procure from the SWAC regarding media and broadcasting rights?
No, sir.
Objection calls for speculation.
Do you know whether after the call with Dr. McClellan and Urban Edge, if any employees of Urban Edge went out to third parties and asserted that they had rights to broadcast SWAC athletic competitions like football, basketball, and the like?
Repeat the question again.
Do you know whether after that call you had with Dr. McClellan and Urban Edge, any of Urban Edge's employees or representatives went out to third parties and asserted that Urban Edge had rights to broadcast SWAC athletic competitions like football, basketball, and the like?
Objection, Lex Foundation calls for speculation as to third parties.
I had heard rumblings.
Objection calls for speculation.
In Exhibit 3, the last page, I'm going to hand you the last page of Exhibit 3. It's already in the record.
Yes, sir.
I've underlined a provision there. Is it your understanding that in that agreement, it provides a provision that the agreement is the entire agreement between Urban Marketing Weber Marketing and Urban Edge?
I'm just out of court reporter. Can you please read back that question?
You're wasting time.
I'm asking for clarification.
If you don't, you're not the one answering the question.
I'm asking for clarification. Madam Court Reporter, please read back the question.
I've underlined a provision there. Is it your understanding that in that agreement it provides a provision that the agreement is the entire agreement between Weber Marketing and Urban Edge?
Calls for speculation, Lex Foundation.
And is it also in the agreement, in that same paragraph, that says the agreement that you entered into with Weber Marketing and Urban Edge supersedes all prior agreements between the parties?
Yes, sir.
So again, after the call with the commissioner of SWAC and the language that's in the actual agreement, can you think of any plausible reason Urban Edge would think that they would have rights to SWAC football, softball, basketball, volleyball, and other events?
No, sir.
Objection calls for speculation on what Urban Edge thought.
No, sir.
What's your understanding of who owns Urban Edge Network?
Todd Brown.
What's your understanding of what Mr. Pelt's role is?
Try to put deals together.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. I'm sorry to help you this long.
So I don't get to answer my
No,
question.
well, we're coming back, so. And she doesn't feel that.
No, I appreciate.
Thank you so much,
you.
Off
I
record.
reserve my right then that this deposition is not complete until at the time.
Well, we got to come back anyway because we have to do his 30B6.
Do we want
All
to?
right, we'll continue questions as needed.
Do we want to go off the record first?
Yeah, we're off the record.
We're off the record.
No, off record at
Oh.
5:29.